Hello, Facebook.
Welcome to Pride Month Eve.
I was going to say welcome to the 9 millionth edition of Gay USA.
Wouldn't be hard to count.
Well, yes, except we could certainly count the number of shows.
Yeah.
Like 35, like 1,700, 1,800 shows.
Wow.
That would be 35 years of 52 weeks a year.
Yeah.
That's an approximation.
Well, it's been on for like 38 years.
38?
Times
Okay.
52 is 1976.
That's the year I came out.
That's the year you came to what?
Came out.
Oh, you came out in 76.
The bicentennial year.
Yeah. Well, I guess I came out publicly in 74. Well, went into the Pride March. Wasn't exactly that public.
And we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrop, constantly fiddling with my screen in an
Me
attempt
too.
to be at the same level as Andy.
Okay. And happy eve of LGBTQ Pride Month when we're taping today on Wednesday. It's going to be a lot more daring for people to celebrate Pride this year.
Oh, man, it's a mess. The Republican-led U.S. House, when it's not trying to destroy the economy, is holding hearings on banning trans athletes as Iowa joins the states who have done it.
GLSEN and its staff are under intense right-wing threats for standing up for LGBTQ students and teachers.
and so is Target still. The retailer is still being threatened and boycotted by the MAGA crowd, despite curbing their Pride line of merchandise, and their stock price is tanking. But the trans designer who was nixed by Target has seen their sales soar of this merchandise.
And the crazies are going after Chick-fil-A too. Speaking of crazies, Ron DeSantis accuses Trump of siding with Disney and what he now calls Disney's sexualization of children.
I have to laugh at the idea that DeSantis, as he's now called on Morning Joe, because that's what he called himself occasionally, is turning Trump into a liberal. The anti-LGBTQ Attorney General of Texas, Mr. Paxton, is removed from office as he awaits a state Senate trial with his wife as one of the jurors.
She's a senator, a gay TV and movie star, and a groundbreaking gay experimental filmmaker and author die in their 90s.
They were both quite stunning. We'll talk about them for a while. Uganda's president for life signs the vicious anti-homosexuality bill, a kill the gays bill on steroids.
We'll hear from a Ugandan exile about that. Turkey narrowly retained its anti-LGBTQ leader.
But Ireland is moving to expunge the criminal records of gay and bisexual men arrested for sodomy prior to 1993.
Why don't we do that in New York, where Mpox is on the rise again? So get your vaccinations and your boosters.
And we'll tell you about a couple of comedy specials on Netflix for lesbian stars Wanda Sykes and Hannah Gadsby.
And we are kicking off LGBTQ Pride Month, and we want to express our appreciation to all of you sticking with us throughout all this bad news, mixed with, we hope, what you see as continued progress in our movements and resistance. But if you'd like to help us keep going and maybe make a donation for Pride Month, go to our website at gayusatv.org. We appreciate it.
Oh, Andy, you'll come up with any excuse to ask people for their support.
Well,
we do appreciate it.
You don't ask, you don't get.
So I've heard. Anyway, we do appreciate it, and we feel extremely warmly towards all our viewers and are grateful for your support in all of the ways.
Thank you. Well, so this week, the U.S. House, today, as we tape, are holding hearings on a bill targeting trans athletes. The Republicans call it the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, as if they care. It seeks to amend the 1972 federal civil rights law prohibiting discrimination, sex discrimination, to define sex as, quote, based solely on a person's reproductive biology and genetics at birth. 18 states have adopted similar laws, though there are injunctions against enforcement in Idaho, West Virginia, and Utah. Look, over 100 anti-LGBTQ bills have passed in the last 5 years, half of them this year.
Well, Governor Ivey of Alabama has just signed a new bill to expand their ban on trans women athletes doing women's sports from just kindergarten through high school to now include colleges and universities.
Right. And what the House is maybe likely to pass, we'll see. We'll see if we have any Republican allies in there. Iowa has done. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, we got a picture over there, signed a bill banning teachers from raising sexual orientation or gender identity issues with students through grade 6. She's not outdoing DeSantis, who went to 12.
Give her time. She'll get to 12.
All books depicting sex acts will be removed from school libraries, except the Bible or other religious texts.
Oh, I see. There are exceptions here.
Yeah, Reynolds is saying her administration is empowering teachers to prepare our kids for their future while keeping them ignorant about sex and hating on LGBTQ people. The new law requires schools to notify parents if students change pronouns or names. It also requires posting online all books in the library and curricula. So right-wingers with time on their hands and hate in their hearts can complain about them.
She is also, this bill also mandates the erasure of any information about HIV or HPV, the human papillomavirus, in any curricula. We're going to keep health information away from kids.
Time to move.
Well, she is not getting away with this without notice because as we've been showing you over the past few weeks, the youth in these states are speaking up. And we have a little tape of a graduating senior at Sioux City High School speaking from the podium at his graduation.
In final words, I would like to throw the first brick into our future, break the glass ceiling, and stand up for the rights of others. I've been meaning to do this all year. Support trans rights and read banned books. Don't let them take away our love. Don't let them ban the books of the people we love. And don't stop fighting, for we are the class of 2023. And no matter what they say, what they do, they cannot stop us. For they can ban this book, but they cannot take it away from us. So. I love you all.
And we love you too, Patrick Bauman, Baughman. You are a hero.
it is shocking to me that no one sitting behind him tried to tackle him and get him away from the podium.
I don't think he would have given up that mic.
Oh, me either. But the fact that they sat there calmly while he did that is stunning.
Well, and of course, we're reading, you've heard of GLSEN, the LGBTQ education network that works to make schools safe for LGBTQ youth. Well, they are really being targeted. They're under extreme attack from right-wing media, such as Fox and the New York Post and the evil Rupert Murdoch empire and Breitbart. And they're receiving thousands of hateful messages and threats, including to the safety of their staff, because they're trying to stick up for gay LGBTQ youth and for all youth so that they can understand LGBTQ issues.
Well, GLSEN for decades has been the leading light on creating and maintaining the GSAs, what were originally the gay straight alliances in schools, and they have certainly worked on curriculum issues and been tremendously successful and positive forces in the schools. And now these crazies have caught up with them and realize what they're doing and are going after them. And then, unfortunately, they are an easy target because they are so overtly positive about LGBTQ youth and bringing these issues into the schools. And boom, it's like they got hit by a truck from the side. And it's just a shame because they've done such good work.
And you all heard, I'm sure, about the right-wing mom who tried to get Amanda Gorman's inauguration poem, The Hill We Climb, banned, along with anything by Langston Hughes, the Black gay poet. She not only hadn't read Gorman's poem entirely, but was found on social media to be promoting the anti-Semitic Protocols of the Elders of Zion. This mom, we should say her name, Daly Salinas, apologized when confronted. She says she loves Jews, but she's still hating on Black people. I'm not a reader, she said. I'm not a book person. Her objection got Gorman's poem and Hughes' poetry restricted to middle school and later. A single objection to this. And by the way, kids, it's online. If you'd like to read it, you can even see Amanda Gorman read it at the inauguration.
Well, yeah, but what kind of system are we living under where one crazy in a community can get hundreds of books banned in schools? It's insane, and it is, I don't have enough words for it, but it is disgusting on its face. And that system is something that needs to be examined and replaced. But hysteria is the word of the day for all these things. And of course, the vast majority of people in this country are the victims of this kind of attack, and for no reason at all. And it is just panic in the streets. And we're all paying the price. And we may pay the price with our next president, which is really, really scary.
Either one, whoever it is, unless it's John Sununu or something. The anti-drag law.
I've been watching him on recent interviews, and he starts by talking a good game, and then he turns really right-wing. And it is.
Well, that used to happen with Kasich a lot. He was the favorite Republican, considered a moderate and a reasonable guy, all the time. And then when you pressed him on an issue like, would you sign an LGBTQ rights law for Ohio? Well, and he lied it. He was not for anything. Yeah. And we know what they're for in Tennessee. The anti-drag law there bans, now a lot of them don't do this, this specifically bans male or female impersonators where they can be seen by children. And if that's not unconstitutional, I don't know what is, but we live under a court that ended reproductive choice, clean water and air, voting rights, and gun control. A court ruling is due on that law this week.
And one of the leaders of the right wing, based in Tennessee, is Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA. a viciously right-wing operation. They held their pastors' summit there in Nashville, and he has now denied knowing that one of the sponsors of the summit is a registered sex offender in North Dakota. And when confronted with this information, he said, well, the guy apologized and he's changed. He's changed. This is the formula with the right wing. You can do anything as
exactly, because he's pushing for a boycott of Target because of their, quote, support for grooming kids. But it's these characters, and we don't have to say, you just said it, who are the ones who were grooming children for sex and fascism.
And there are these stories popping up every day of right-wingers. There's some guy who's a member of the Patriot Front who has been slinging horrible charges and violence. And it turns out that he is a consumer of child pornography and was found having that loaded up in his house. And yet he's out there with the Patriot Front claiming he is attacking groomers and people who sexualize children.
Well, a lot of it is directed against Target for the last couple of weeks because of their pride lines, most of which have been preserved in the stores, some of which in the South have been moved to the back. But the right wing is acting like they've had a great victory because they say there was a $9 billion market cap loss in the stock price.
It's up to 16.
Sorry?
It's up to 16 billion cap loss in the stock market.
Back up. Now, since most companies do some outreach to LGBTQ consumers, anyone who sort of wanted to make a stock tank or something like that could just do one of these things and manipulate the stock. That's how crazy it is right now.
Well, it used to be that Moms for Degradation or whoever they were.
Moms for Liberty.
I think there was a preceding group like
Million Moms,
Women for America or something. They would some company would do something pro LGBTQ, and they would announce a boycott, a national boycott against the company. And no one would pay any attention, and the company would go on, and there was no problem, no stock prices tanking. They were just seen as who they were, a small fringe group that shouldn't be paid attention to. But somehow in the ensuing 10 to 20 years, this is all flipped. And now these fringe groups, these single crazy parents in some school district, these tiny little protesters who are all child molesters themselves, have gained this power to bring down major corporations and the entire economy. And I frankly don't know when or how or why this happened, but maybe it's Trump, maybe it's DeSantis, maybe it's who knows what, Kevin McCarthy, but they have gained power while still being tiny little fringe groups or people. And the whole thing is flipped.
I think it's because they're fed a steady, incessant diet of this on the internet, on Newsmax, and on Fox, in the New York Post. I was visiting relatives and I read the New York Post over the weekend. It's like a newsletter for this kind of stuff to get people riled up about these things. And they've seized upon the idea that this is harmful to children somehow. And it is in their heads that they're protecting children by going into a Target store and taking away pride displays and things like that. One of the so-called activists, Scott Bido, attacked a Staten Island Target store, shouting about Memorial Day and honoring the military instead of LGBTQ pride, and get rid of the kids. And then he said a bad word that begins with S. That doesn't belong in here. You catered to the 0.1%. You're going to go down like Budweiser. Now, again, he's screaming obscenities in the store and claiming he's protecting children.
But I'm really interested in this, how they gain this power, because they are still a tiny minority. And I think you're right about social media and Fox News and everything ginning this up, but the mainstream used to not be scared of them, and now they are. And I don't think they don't have, tens of thousands of people in the street. They may react on social media, but that's still not really doing anything.
Well, it's nice to see people standing up to them. There was a Target employee where a guy was holding up a shirt for kids that was gay themed, and he said, "I'm going to take this home and I'm going to burn it." And she said, "You're entirely entitled to do that, sir." I mean, she was not fazed. She said, "Don't you know this is Satanism? And don't you believe in God?" He says, "No, I don't believe in God." And, it's just...
Yes, she was terrific. She was absolutely terrific. But Target is now losing billions in their stock price and running for the hills on supporting LGBTQ people to some extent.
But again, it's almost every company in the country. Let's talk about Chick-fil-A, because they're after Chick-fil-A now. Why are they after Chick-fil-A? Because they found out Chick-fil-A had a DEI program, diversity, equity, and inclusion. 90% of companies in the country have those programs, and Chick-fil-A is not ashamed of it. They don't even mention LGBTQ stuff in their DEI stuff, but people are talking about one of the most conservative companies in the world, and we'll have to boycott you if you don't get rid of DEI.
Well, Chick-fil-A is still closed on Sunday, which is raising a controversy in New York State because they've been awarded franchise at the New York Thruway rest stops.
Oh.
But they're closed on Sundays. So don't drive the throughways on Sunday and think you're going to Chick-fil-A.
You're going to have to learn to pack a lunch if you're traveling on Sundays and you're craving Chick-fil-A.
Well, I guess it is the population that has been affected by social media and by these news outlets that is then putting the politicians in office, that is giving them that power that they should not have. But I remain stumped by how we've gone from being able to ignore these kinds of charges to running scared from them.
Well, I mean, it was also a new phenomenon that people stormed the Capitol. I mean, that's something we hadn't seen before either. So there is a fervor that's out there. Some of it has to do with the pandemic.
Yeah.
Some of it has to do with Trump unleashing it. You could say that. But it's out there. In fact, we just learned that the transgender insurrectionist, Jessica Watkins, was sentenced to 8.5 years in prison.
She was the one who was one of those storming the Capitol and was prominently featured in a lot of photographs. So there was no question that she was there and doing that. And she, like the others, has been prosecuted.
The judge said, "Your role that day was more aggressive, more assaultive, more purposeful than perhaps others, and led others to fulfill your purposes. And you showed no shame or contrition right afterwards. Your comments were celebratory." Though she did eventually apologize. She said, "I was just an idiot running around the hallways, but an idiot does have to take responsibility."
Exactly. But why can't they understand that they're idiots before they do that?
Well, let's not leave Target entirely, because the trans designer, Eric Carnell, who had some of his clothes for trans people pulled from Target, has seen a surge in demand for his pins, prints, stickers, and T-shirts, so much so that the company had to temporarily stop taking orders. One of his sweaters read, "Cure transphobia, not trans people." Eric said he hopes none of Target's retail employees are the victims of further threats, and that none of them come to any harm.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Target employees in Utah are getting bomb threats at stores there.
Layton, Utah.
I think there were 3 towns in Utah where Target stores got threats.
Yes, Salt Lake City, Taylorsville, and Provo over pride displays.
Uh, all right.
Prosecutors.
But meanwhile, the treasurer of CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Committee, and the American Conservative Union, a guy named Bob Beaupre, has quit the organization as treasurer because there are financial. He quit in. No, I'm confused. He quit because there are financial.
He's still there. You're talking about the head of CPAC is still there.
No, the treasurer, Bob Beaupre, has quit. Around the financial I think he quit in anger because Matt Schlapp, the head of the organization, has been doing some financially mysterious stuff, raising money for his defense against the charges of sexual abuse of the guy who worked for the Herschel Walker campaign.
Sic semper tyrannis.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Texas.
Okay.
So you all read that the Republican-dominated House of Representatives down there impeached Ken Paxton over corruption charges. He's the corrupt attorney general who extremely anti-gay. The vote was 121 to 23. And we could go into the details. It's such a long list of corruption. The thing that seems to have upset them the most is there were these whistleblowers against him in the office, and they won a lawsuit for $3 million against Paxton for retaliating against them. And then Paxton goes to the legislature and says, "Pay this bill for me," and that seems to have set them off, even though the people of Texas have reelected him twice while he's under indictment for some of his financial chicanery.
And this is the guy who constantly attacks the LGBTQ community with prosecutions, for instance, of parents who are trying to get medical care for their transgender kids. He's relentless in that kind of stuff.
He's been threatening legislators, I guess, including his wife, because she's not recusing herself from the Senate vote where she sits, even though I don't judge personal relationships, but part of the deal was he was getting jobs for his mistress through this guy he had a corrupt relationship with. But she's sticking with him. They need a 2/3 vote for removal entirely, but he's out now. That's the way impeachment works. Wouldn't that have been nice with Trump? After he was impeached?
Exactly. So the trial's going to be in the fall, August or September, I think.
Yeah, it has to happen by the end of August. Trump and Cruz are defending him.
Yeah.
Now, Angela Paxton, this senator who's his wife, she is required to be president. She won her seat in 2018 by just 2 points over an out gay opponent, Mark Farris, who was one of the people denied a marriage license and sued in Texas. She said during the campaign that they shouldn't send a sinner to the Senate. And from then on, Farris would say, she can have all the non-sinner votes. I'll take the sinners, and we'll see who wins. She only won by 2 points. Trump won the district by 9. Oh, by the way, the trial is presided over by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who's another far-right.
Oh, my God. Yes. And then, of course, we have the governor, Greg Abbott. A small, more local political note. I want to thank Danny O'Donnell here in New York for quickly apologizing for a crude remark to a fellow member of the Assembly.
I believe so.
Yes. But, he was reputed to have said to her in some anger after a committee meeting, grow a pair. She objected to that, as well she should. But I thought of this when I saw Sarah Silverman's new comedy special where she says, why is it that people, when they want to say, be brave, be courageous, say, grow a pair, when those are the most vulnerable parts on any man? It just makes no sense.
True. It's true.
It's very cute.
Governor Abbott in Texas, by the way, is poised to sign a bill to ban trans athletes from playing college sports. They're only going to be allowed to play intramural, and it's all based on gender-assigned at birth.
Yeah. Well, let's throw in a couple of good news stories. I had them. Oh, in Louisiana, a Senate committee has killed a bill that would have banned medical care for trans youth.
Wow.
And the Republican chair voted against the bill. That's an unusual bipartisan vote, and
Well,
congratulations to them.
in Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker is poised to sign a bill. He said he would do it on a ban on book bans. I think Jersey is doing this too. The state provides $62 million annually to libraries across the state, and under the new law, a library must adopt the American Library Association's Library Bill of Rights or something similar, so that they don't ban books throughout the system. The ALA Bill of Rights says libraries should present all points of view on current or historical issues and should not be removed because of partisan or doctrinal disapproval. There were 67 attempts to ban books in Illinois in 2022.
When the United States Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage, we thought, oh, great, that's a national law. But there are laws that do not apply to Native American communities because they are in some ways separate legal entities. And so the various Native nations have been dealing with this issue ever since. And the Choctaw Nation Constitutional Court has just legalized same-sex marriage for their constituents.
In Delaware, you may have heard that Senator Tom Carper won't run for the Senate in 2024 for re-election, and Congress member Lisa Brunt Rochester is the favorite to succeed him. And her open seat is being eyed by out-trans.
Right. All right. Unfortunate. Well, you be the judge. We celebrate the fact that the Los Angeles Dodgers came to their senses and re-invited the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, much to our amusement, to be honored at their Pride Day celebrations. But a couple of the Dodgers were a little upset about this, and they have hastened the Dodgers reviving their historical celebration of Christian Faith and Family Day, which will take place on July 30th and will include worship services celebrating Jesus after the game. What are they going to do when other religions come to them for
exactly
celebrations?
Well, you know, the sisters did agree to receive the honor on Pride Night. Sister Unity said, "Our community is concerned with performative allyship, but we believe the Dodgers are sincere." If you go to Pride Night, you get a rainbow-colored jersey. I don't know what you get on Christian Faith Night.
Well, even Clayton Kershaw, the Dodgers pitcher who was the leader on this Faith Day, said, "I don't have anything against LGBTQ people. I just want to also celebrate Jesus."
That's right. Okay.
Well, he was unmarried, you know.
In Nashville, the Nashville Soccer Club flew the pride flag during the second half of a Major League Soccer game between the Columbus Crew on May 29th, right in the heart of the hate state.
All right. Couple of school stories. In Dover, New Hampshire, a Catholic high school, St. Thomas Aquinas, has fired 6 teachers who refused to attend a mandated training that was anti-trans people. They were also fired for respecting students' preferred pronouns.
Yes, they said that was well-intentioned but misguided.
Yeah, so the parents and students are up in arms against the school for doing this. This is what happens, you know, the parents send their kids to these schools and they just ignore the fact that these schools are going to follow through on their biblical teachings. And then they get all upset when the teachers get fired. Well,
alumni, there are some alumni claiming that the school was welcoming to LGBTQ students in the past. All right.
Well, another religious-based school in New York City, the Grace Church School, had a very successful, long-standing, out lesbian athletic director, Eliana Armijos, 10 years, winning championships, whatever. But her subordinate was a guy who had no success at anything. His basketball team lost every single game. He was a white cis guy, and he went to her and said, "I want to be the co-athletic director." She said, "Who are you kidding?" But he pressed his case, and a new head of school came in and forced her out and gave him the full job as full athletic director. So she has filed a complaint about this and charged that she was constructively fired. And there's, big uproar at the Grace.
Well, she's suing through the State Human Rights Commission, which, can be good. But if you're listening, I urge you to file a private right of action and go to court using the law. That's usually faster and more productive, if you can. Okay.
Congregation Beth Simchat Torah, the LGBTQ-friendly synagogue in New York City, has booked Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House communications director, to be the speaker at their Pride service on June 23rd. So you want to
speaking of civil rights, on another civil rights front in New York City, the city just enacted a bill to ban discrimination based on height and weight, unless these are bona fide job qualifications. Few localities have such laws, but now New York is the largest to have it.
Should we turn to the people we lost this
Well,
week?
I think we got it. We haven't even talked about Ron DeSantis yet.
No. Well, he just gets to be more of a tyrant every single day. What do you want to say?
But I mean, he's really trying to out-Trump Trump. I mean,
oh, absolutely. He's running to the right.
He won't just pardon the January 6th coup mob. He'll pardon Trump for his involvement in the plot. A friend posted that every drag queen in Florida should change their names to Rhonda Santos. On Memorial Day, he said the big difference between him and Trump is that Trump supports Disney, a company that sexualizes children. Now, this is a new tack for him. I hadn't heard him saying this before. When he was against Disney, it was just because they had too many privileges, basically. But now he's being naked. He didn't say that Trump sexualizes children by going into the dressing rooms at the teen pageant he ran. Maybe he will, because Santos is too chicken for that. But when DeSantis makes this bizarre charge against Disney, what is he talking about?
But that's the point. None of this is true. Nothing that any of these people say is true. They are just picking up on what works in terms of rhetoric, and they are going with it, and they are exaggerating it, and they are being grandiose about it.
And he says, I'm going to destroy leftism. I mean, that's fascist talk, of course.
Yes.
Completely, literally fascist talk.
Yes.
We do have many points of view, and you don't have to embrace them all, but you have to protect them all when you take an oath to the Constitution.
No. He is promising to be a fascist leader of the United States. He is promising an Orban, Putin, Erdogan administration, and people are cheering that.
Let's talk about the people that we lost.
All right, George Maharis. Oh my God, I was so crazy about George Maharis that I bought one of his albums. I did. I looked for it the other day to see if I still had it. I don't, but.
Well, for those who don't know him, he was the guy who broke out on TV's Route 66, which I used to watch in the 1960s, and he has died at 94 in Beverly Hills.
He's the one on the left with the dark hair. That's Marty Milner on the right, the blonde. He was brooding and serious, and it was a very groundbreaking show because it was deeper. It wasn't some superficial thing. It got very deep into issues.
Now he came to attention to do that show because he had done stage work, including playing in Edward Albee's The Zoo Story, and I imagine he played the gay character, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
He's the rougher guy.
Yeah.
And but he did 82 episodes of Route 66 and earned an Emmy nomination. But then he bowed out in '63, citing health problems. But the producers later said his homosexuality was a factor, writing that they were betrayed and duped when they learned of it, because he got arrested a couple of times in restrooms. I mean, any gay man, who's 94 likely went through this at some point. It happened to him a couple of times.
Well, I figured one of them, the one in '74, must have been the famous gas station restroom that was run by who was the guy in Hollywood?
Patty Bowers.
Yes, and I would lay dollars to donuts that that's where George Maharis was arrested.
That restroom had a cruisy, tea room, and the gays used to decorate it and to keep it clean. So very, very nice.
Very good for them. But poor George Maharis. I was interested in how really out he was. I mean, not in the newspapers voluntarily, but he seemed quite casual about being gay and being known as gay off camera.
Well, he modeled fully nude for the second issue of Playgirl in 1973.
And he lived to 94, which I think is terrific long life. And I was crazy about him.
He was the epitome of cool.
Yes, he was. And then we have also quite interesting and cool Kenneth Anger, who is famous for a couple of things. First, making some very wild experimental films, none of which were very long, all of which were silent except for their music soundtracks. Scorpio Rising in 1963, about a biker group and a bunch of Lutherans.
And Fireworks, which was 1947, I think.
And Lucifer. I mean, he had Lucifer tattooed on his chest, but he was also maybe even more famous for his books, Hollywood Babylon, which uncovered the sex lives, and particularly the gay sex lives, of a lot of Hollywood. I think that's where I first read about Cary Grant and Randolph Scott, was in Hollywood Babylon. And in fact, while I do not have the George Maharis album, I do have Hollywood Babylon 2 on my bookshelf.
I think I have one of those as well. He, as a filmmaker, he is cited as an influence on Martin Scorsese, David Lynch, and John Waters. Though I see Marty just met with the Pope and plans another movie about Jesus. He was also... It would
certainly not have been from Kenneth Anger.
He was also arrested for homosexuality through police entrapment. We're going to link in our email. You can get our email by going to gayusatv.org, sign up for our list, to Fireworks and to Scorpio Rising. But
wow.
Trigger, there's violence in these films, the gay bashing in Fireworks by sailors. But it ends in, well, I won't tell you how it ends.
Don't spoil the story.
If you choose to, if you can follow it, if you choose to watch it. But it was, again, totally groundbreaking for its day. Nobody had done anything like this. He was really kind of the first out gay filmmaker. And
lived to 96. If you would ask me if Kenneth Anger was still alive, I would have said no way. But he was. Now we have one more obituary, which may surprise you. Tina Turner. When you say, well, why are we talking about Tina Turner on Gay USA? Tina Turner performed at the first gay games in San Francisco, which was a very, considered dangerous gig at the time. And there she is in a red dress and with one of her dancers, and it was magnificent to have her there at the opening ceremony. That's the opening ceremony of the Gay Games in 1982.
And she lived out most of the last 30 years in Switzerland with her German husband, who was a German music executive, Erwin Bach, and just blended in with the town and had a quiet life. She was much bigger, actually, in Europe than she was here, even, if you can believe that.
She was a longtime supporter of same-sex marriage, and of course, an icon to drag queens everywhere. You are not a legitimate drag queen if you don't imitate Tina Turner.
And before we leave,
exaggeration on my part, but
okay, all right, international news.
Yes, we might as well get to that.
Well, the worst, of course, is what came from Uganda. President Museveni, in office for 33 years, which suggests they even have a worse democracy than we do, signed the heinous, enhanced Kill the Gays bill, scapegoating LGBTQ people to cling to power in a country that is deeply homophobic and transphobic. This is a country hell-bent on eradicating LGBTQ people. Activists are preparing a lawsuit. 85% of the people of Uganda are said to endorse the new law. The government is licensing them to assault, blackmail, rape, torture, and murder LGBTQ people. When you get beat up for being gay, it's hard to find a doctor who will treat you. And certainly the authorities aren't going to do anything about it other than arrest you. Now, it was pushed hard by US evangelical groups who are spreading their hate all over Africa, notably Family Watch International, which held an event in Entebbe in March, pushing the ex-gay movement, which has been banned in many parts of the United States. Now, President Biden calls this whole thing shameful. It's a law so bad that even Ted Cruz condemned it as an abomination. 20 years for the promotion of homosexuality. I mean,
life in prison for consensual sex, the death penalty for repeated consensual sex or sex with minors, and 20 years in prison if you mention homosexuality, which is defined as promotion. 14
years for attempted homosexuality. Now, the one thing they took out was that technically the status of being gay is not a crime, they're saying, but they're empowering people in the bill. We want you to report anyone you suspect of being homosexual.
And they want employers to fire gay people. They want landlords to evict them. And this is the kind of behavior that is now being emulated by DeSantis and the whole right wing here in this country, supported also by the right-wing evangelical movement. But we have a little piece of video of a lesbian in Uganda who...
Her name is Delevi Kwagala. She's a non-binary photographer and activist, and she has fled Uganda, but here's what she had to say about it.
There's no hope, but where are we supposed to go? You don't want us in your country. You're not giving us jobs. You're not giving us education. You're not giving us medication. You are criminalizing people renting to us. Where do you want us to go? You are arresting us for literally doing nothing, for simply existing, but where are we supposed to go? How did we become refugees in our own countries?
She can't go home.
No, she can't. And I hope she has found some safety somewhere. But imagine the thousands and thousands of people who are just like her and are living under that threat every day.
Well, especially when they're spreading these laws to trying into Ghana, Zambia, Kenya, and Tanzania.
Yes. It's a massacre. It's a genocide. It's unspeakable. And then we have Turkey, where President Erdogan has won re-election on a similar platform, not quite at that level yet, but he's heading in that direction because that is where people see potential political success. So anyone with no values or morals is hopping on this train, and we are all at risk.
And he's running a semi-fascist state. I mean, he during the campaign for the runoff, he got 32 hours of TV coverage. His opponent was given 32 minutes.
Yeah. All right.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. In Poland, the ruling right-wing party pushing legislation to restrict access of NGOs providing sexuality education in schools, stepping up the use of a discriminatory national curriculum. The party leader says it's to curb, again, the sexualization of children. but the goal is to end comprehensive sex education. You know, we worked for an NGO that went into schools, and that's the only way a lot of schools here did it, and that's the way schools in Poland did it. And, you know, EU leaders are meeting about Poland and Hungary and all their problems this week. But the legislation was rejected in the past after widespread protests from students, teachers, and civil society.
Controversy in Italy where a trans woman was beaten viciously on the street for a long period of time by cops with their baton. There's video of it, which we're not showing you because it is too vicious, and our TV stations do not like showing that material. There's some debate about whether this trans woman had done something inappropriate, but no one, for any reason, deserved that beating. The cops were totally in power and could just have arrested her, but instead they chose to attack her and beat her.
In Ireland, the Department of Justice there is working with a group on overturning convictions for consensual gay male sex, prior to 1993, when they finally got rid of the law against it. They've issued their report. In 2021, the out gay Prime Minister, Leo Varadkar, formally apologized to gay and bi men for all the criminalization, but now they're looking to expunge the criminal convictions. At least 941 men were convicted before it was repealed. LGBT groups are pushing for legislative action, but why aren't we doing that in New York or all across this country? I mean, New York is considering a law to expunge anybody's conviction for many kinds of crimes, the Clean Slate Act, but that's not the same thing as completely expunging and saying we did wrong when we convicted you.
Well, perhaps politicians are becoming more reluctant to do anything on our behalf, given what's going on around us. In the UK, the British Cycling Organization has a new policy, the rules that will go into effect by the end of the year. Cis women and non-hormoned trans men can compete in sports in the category of women. Everyone else, meaning trans women and other trans people and men, cis men, will be put in a category called open.
Okay, also in the United Kingdom, we told you about how TV host Philip Schofield, 61, came out on his show in 2020, a beloved fixture, first on the BBC children's shows, then on ITV's This Morning Breakfast news show for like the last 12 years. Well, he quit last week when it was discovered that he lied about having an affair with a young male colleague, someone he met when the kid was a teen seeking a break into the business, but who he got involved with when they worked together. The scandal was more in the cover-up. Schofield stayed married to his wife after coming out.
All right, are we ready to move on?
Yes. Well, again, another reminder about Mpox. We keep reminding you that cases in the US are going back up again. It's critical that you get vaccinated if you're at risk from sexual transmission or whatever. Dr. Dimitri Daskalakis, the White House Mpox response deputy coordinator, said that without renewed prevention efforts, especially vaccines, we are definitely at risk for a resurgence of substantial risk.
And it's a 2-shot regimen for the Mpox vaccine, which is very effective. And of course, moderating sexual activity is also part of that regime.
Well, 2 doses are 66 to 88% effective. A single dose, 36 to 75% effective. I don't know. Of the 42 people, by the way, to die of this virus in the United States, almost all had poorly managed HIV or were homeless, and 40% were homeless. Protection from the vaccine may wane over time. And if you had Mpox, you are still entitled to a single dose. In New York, 39 cases so far this year, 20 in January and 2 this past month.
You may not think that those are large numbers, but you may also remember the start of the discovery of the HIV epidemic and how small those numbers were at first. And now it's 6 million people around the globe. HRC has gotten $5 million from Gilead Pharmaceutical Company and claims they are using that to stop the epidemic, the HIV epidemic, among Black and other men of color. And I say, really? Then why do the numbers keep going up?
Yeah.
We'll see. All right, entertainment news.
Yes.
Well, there are a couple of really terrific Netflix specials, hour-long comedy specials by two of our favorite lesbian performers. Hannah Gadsby has her third Netflix special, this one called Something Special. The first one was Nanette, and then there was Douglas. This one, Something Special, is mostly about her marriage to her producer of her specials. And it's very entertaining, very amusing. It's not quite as, hard hitting or jolting as the first special or even the second special. It's a little more lighthearted, but it's constantly intelligent and compelling and really entertaining and worth an hour of your time to watch Hannah Gadsby on Netflix.
And also on Netflix, Wanda Sykes. I had the pleasure of watching it with some friends, and we were laughing out loud. I don't usually do that, watching television. It's called I'm an Entertainer, and she is that and more, covering her lesbian awakening, the COVID crisis, married life, motherhood, and more, and also sharply takes on the current right-wing attacks on LGBTQ people. Her famous quote that has become a meme, until a drag queen walks into a school and beats 8 kids to death with a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, I think you're focusing on the wrong, and she used a word for crap. A brilliant set. I hope her marriage survives it.
Yes, it's quite bold in taking on her issues with her wife. She's pretty fearless.
Well, in an interview, Wanda took on the controversy over cancel culture that so many comedians like Jerry Seinfeld and Bill Maher moan about. To me, she said, the whole complaint about cancel culture is a lot of men, especially straight men, who are just pissed that they can't say things anymore. And it's not that you can't say things. You can say them, but now there's just consequences. So that's why I can't get canceled. Only God can say, all right, Wanda, that's enough.
Well, it's true, and I agree. It is mostly men who are feeling offended themselves that anyone should question them, but not exclusively. Joy Behar, an old pal, complains about this constantly on The View, and I find most comedians will complain about it. Judy Gold just did a whole performance about it, and it's ridiculous.
Just do the show. You're having your free speech, and if we don't like it, we can say so. That's all that it amounts to.
Yeah, but their argument seems to be, I'm a comedian. I can say anything. I don't have the same rules as everybody else.
Rivers could be very offensive.
Oh, on a daily basis, but I still found a lot of what she said funny, but a lot of it was offensive.
Yes. Somehow Don Rickles had always sounded kind of lovable, but he was an insult comic as well.
He was, but calling someone a hockey puck is not not a really harmful thing to.
Well, I want to alert our viewers that on next week's show, we're going to have Martha Shelley on, a pioneering lesbian activist. Her book is called We Set the Night on Fire, Igniting the Gay Revolution. She was an activist before Stonewall. She was around for Stonewall, an interesting story, and of course, long after. And then in 2 weeks, Chris Cooper is going to come on and talk about his book, Better Living Through Birding.
Really looking forward to both of those. Although Maren Johns will be sitting in for me with Chris Cooper, but I get to talk to Martha Shelley next week.
If you have any questions for Chris, pass them along.
Or Martha. And on this Friday, June 2nd, from 3 to 5 p.m. is when Randy Wicker, original gay activist, will be appearing at the Stonewall National Monument and talking about his life under the auspices of the Generations Project, which is a storytelling group. And of course, he's one of the grand marshals of the Pride Parade on June 25th.
We thank you for your support and for watching us today. And Ann and I will be back next week. Thanks.
We will.